Good afternoon and welcome to UCF Fall's 2020 Student Engagement Forum. I'm Harshita Panaganti, a rising senior and a marketing major, as well as the senior marketing manager for the UCF Student Union.
I'm Christopher Terry, rising senior and health sciences major. I'm also the recruitment coordinator for President's Leadership Council. Together, we are moderators today for a panel that includes UCF staff representing student life, including Adrian Frame, Associate Vice President and Dean of Students, Carrie Welch, Associate Vice President, Student Development and Enrollment Services, Sabrina La Rosa, Student Body President, Student Government, Stephanie Blanco, Student Body Vice President, Student Government, Wayne Jackson, Director, Multicultural Academic Support Services, Shane Juntanen, Director, Office of Student Involvement, Chanda Torres, Assistant Vice President, UCF Downtown, Rick Falco, Director, Student Union, Jim Wilkening, Executive Director, Recreation and Wellness Center, and also from Student Support, Karen Hoffman, Director, Counseling and Psychological Services, Douglas Muser, Assistant Director, Student Health Services, and from Student Success, Delane Priest, Associate Vice Provost, Student Success, Lynn Hansen, Director, Career Services.
Thanks, Chris. The purpose of this forum is to answer your questions concerning opportunities for Knights to engage in student life, student support, and student success services and programs. To everyone listening and watching on Zoom, note the Q&A feature at the bottom. Please use the Q&A to ask questions and we will share them with the panelists. You can also designate who the question is for. You'll also note an upvote option. So if you see someone has already asked a question that you're interested in, upvote it. We will give preference to upvoted questions, followed by questions in order asked. There may be some more straightforward granular questions that may be passed over and answered in the Q&A window. You will find these in the Answered tab. We will also have some questions submitted through social media. We are currently simulcasting on UCF's YouTube channel. If any attendees are hearing from colleagues having trouble with Zoom, please direct them there. You can also find the direct YouTube link at events.ucf.edu. This Zoom is being closed captioned, so you may need to turn off that option if watching via YouTube. We will now have Dr. Frame provide some opening remarks before we begin taking questions from our viewers.
Thanks so much. Welcome, everybody. My name is Dr. Adrian Frame. I'm the Associate Vice President and Dean of Students here at the University of Central Florida. When it comes to returning this fall, we know that there is no easy one-size-fits-all answer for our students and our employees. We've heard many parents and students, some of whom may want to return and others who may prefer to continue studying remotely. Our students are counting on us not only for their education, but for their home that UCF provides them. For some of our students, UCF provides them the best environment for success and well-being. Others are missing the myriad of experiences on a university campus that occur outside the classroom, and when done with health and well-being as a priority, encourage their personal and professional growth. We continue to closely monitor the surge in cases here in the state of Florida with the Florida Department of Health and the situation in our immediate area. It's certainly caused concern for our university and for our community. Additionally, we're preparing for fall. We continuously refer to CDC guidelines, state and local guidelines, and also the guidelines provided by our own student health services and medical staff. As such, our plans are constantly evolving on a daily basis for fall. It's important for our Knight family to understand that the way we engage with each other will be different this fall, and we need to think about exercising patience and flexibility as we move through this time. In all of our planning, we continue to stress personal responsibility, compassion for others by requiring facial coverings, staying vigilant, limiting social gatherings, and practicing physical distancing, behaviors that are critical now to help diminish the spread of the virus as we head into the fall. I look forward to our dialogue today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frame. And now to our first question. This question comes from Instagram earlier this week. I'm not currently a UCF student, but I was wondering when campus tours reopen.
Chris, I'll take that one. Thank you. Currently, campus tours are not being offered in person on the main campus, but we do have a myriad of options available virtually off the admissions website. I encourage people to go to the admissions website. We have webinars on a regular basis, as well as virtual tours going on. You can participate in many ways that way, and encourage you to look at the admissions website for that information.
Thank you so much. Our second question also comes from social media. Will face-to-face tutoring be available?
I'll take that one. Yes, face-to-face tutoring will be available. It will be limited. We will have tutoring available online, remote, but face-to-face will be available, limited on the main campus as well as downtown. Please check the website, Student Academic Resource Center, for additional information.
Thank you. Our next question, will clubs be having virtual meetings, and will there be a virtual open house to meet the clubs at UCF?
Shane, you're muted.
I apologize for that. I guess I was muted to begin with. Thanks for that question, Chris. Just so you all know that student organizations are a critical part to campus engagement and campus life here at UCF. And so there's going to be a hybrid approach to student organizations. Some of those may choose to meet virtually. Some of those may choose to meet in person. We are still finalizing some of those guidelines, but at the Office of Student Involvement, we are looking at both a opportunity for students to be able to connect with those student organizations, both virtually, which you can already do right now through our student engagement platform, which is called Night Connect. But we are also looking at how do we coordinate a virtual organization fair and also have a in-person organizational fair this year.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, what rules and regulations do Rsos have, and when will they be announced?
I'll go ahead and take that question. Right now, we are in the process of finalizing some of those rules and regulations. As Dr. Frame mentioned, the situation is very fluid at this point in time, but we have committed to giving organizations an opportunity to do face-to-face events and face-to-face meetings. Although our first preference, and we would encourage everyone, is to look at the option to continue to have virtual meetings or hybrid meetings and events. I think it's important for us all to understand is that we are going to have students that are here on campus that are going to want to engage in person, but we also have a number of students who are not going to be on campus or may not be comfortable coming to an event. And so we have to provide all of those different opportunities for them. Those rules and regulations will hopefully be coming out shortly. One of the things that we do know and that we have talked a lot about is the governor has a plan as part of his phase 2 plan that looks at a capacity of about no gatherings not larger than 50 persons. And so I think that that is one of those guidelines that student organizations should be looking at, is smaller scale events if they're going to do them in person. But I also know that student organizations will be required to fill out a safety plan, which the Office of Student Involvement is working on, and we are very close to being released. And there will be some training for those organizations that do want to do face-to-face events.
Thank you, Shane. Our next question, how will online science labs be handled, and will teaching be synchronous? This spring, my daughter took some science classes, which were essentially self-taught, i.e. readings and little direct teaching. So again, how will online science labs be handled? Will teaching be synchronous? Sorry about that.
I'll try to take that one. In terms of classes and synchronous or asynchronous, I think that you will need to check with your faculty member regarding those courses. It will be important for you to do that. We're still working out how some of the labs are going to be taught. So there's more information to come, but at this time, you would need to reach out to your advising offices or to your faculty members to for that specific course to get additional information.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, can you speak to downtown engagement, downtown and other campuses?
All right, hello, I'll take that question. In terms of downtown, thank you so much for asking the question. We're really excited about welcoming the students back, either in a virtual capacity or in a face-to-face capacity. So we're working with our partner institution, Valencia College, to launch a week of welcome, the first week of classes, where students will engage in activities either virtual or face-to-face with clubs and organizations, getting a better understanding of student services, being able to engage in a virtual tour, and being able to be connected to our downtown campus and community. So we're very excited about that. And then in addition to that, we're also going to be working in the fall with creating a student engagement calendar that we're almost finalizing right now that's going to engage students continuously throughout the fall semester. So that's information regarding UCF downtown. I know that the other campuses are also working on creating student engagement platforms for the fall as well.
Thank you so much. Our next question, what will change within the gyms at UCF, either the rec center or the smaller rec center in Knights Plaza?
Good afternoon, everyone. The rec center team has been working real hard to try to provide opportunities for all students as we get ready for the fall semester. We do plan to open up the Recreation and Wellness Center. The hours will be a little bit more limited than usual. Things that will be available inside the rec center will include the use of the selectorized equipment, cardio equipment, the track, singles badminton and table tennis. And then for some of our programs, we're looking at group exercise that we may do outside or inside the Big Mac gym. We'll continue our RWC Plus format so we can continue to do things live online. We'll look to move personal training over to our Knights Plaza facility so it's a little bit more remote and we can continue the physical distancing. Our OA trips will continue to offer day trips in the area, so we won't be going overnight. And some of the other things that you see is, like many of the other offices, we did enhance our cleaning. We've added different sanitizer stations. The big change you'll see is the fitness equipment itself has been moved all around the rec center. So we were able to work with many of the equipment to space it about. So you will actually see some of the cardio equipment is downstairs on the basketball courts for those of you who have been in the rec center before. So that will have a whole different look to it. So that's just a quick snapshot of some of the things that we've been working on.
Thank you. Our next question is, with every sports league in the US having trouble preventing COVID outbreaks without being in a bubble, why would UCF consider offering any sports until there's a vaccine?
I could probably take that from a sports club standpoint. With our sports clubs having over 40 sports clubs, we'll continue to encourage meetings and operations to happen virtually. Obviously, the team sports type of activities we will not have take place at the beginning of the semester until the situation would change. Fortunately, most of the team sports for clubs, their seasons are in the spring semester, so we can continue to think that we might have a positive solution by then. And then also for some of our clubs, we will be able to do some basic training and development and exercise and really help the teams and players stay fit.
Thank you again. Next question, will the shuttles be running?
As far as I know, the shuttles will continue to run, though I don't have a specific schedule on that. We would need to get with the transportation folks to get that answer and can have that posted later.
Thank you, Dr. Frame. Our next question is, what additional CAP services will be provided to students to help cope with isolation, especially for on-campus residents?
Hi, yes, I'll take that one. CAPS will continue to serve UCF students through telemental health services for the safety of all. We will continue to offer individual and group therapy, which we have been doing since the pandemic started through remote services that benefit our students because it creates access anywhere in Florida for our students. You can call same day or schedule an appointment. We will also have our planned and scheduled outreaches through our Zoom platform. And we have used our social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as our YouTube channel for some helpful information and resources to students that we've been doing over the last months, and we will continue to do that. I encourage students to go to our CAPS website for more information and resources. And I encourage students, staff, parents to call us first for any kind of consultation or any information to be able to see what your student or a student is needing in that time.
Perfect, thank you. Our next question, will students somehow be held accountable or supervised in terms of wearing masks, distancing, and other safety precautions?
Chris, thank you for that question. The answer is that we are really working closely with our students and with our faculty and staff to create an environment here at UCF that demonstrates that each night takes care of one another, that we are mutually responsible for the care of our community, and that we have an expectation that each of us is going to do the things consistently that we know are helpful to delay the spread of this virus. Wearing facial coverings, washing our hands on the regular basis, practicing social distancing, all being among those. We really, we certainly do have an opportunity to use the conduct process as a way to encourage compliance if we need to go that way. But our first goal is really going to be on education and on building a community of care that we already have here at UCF and building on that to help foster the growth and development of others. We've been working really closely with student government. Stephanie and Sabrina have been working on a return to campus web course that will be encouraged for all students to participate in to get some additional information. Sabrina and Stephanie, if you'd like to speak to that as another sort of chink in our armor to grow our community of care, I would like to turn that answer over to you.
Yes, absolutely. We're working really hard on creating this web course to provide students with the most information as possible and updating students on the new policies and procedures and other information so they can have a one-stop shop to get everything that they need, from where to pick up your mask to what's a day in the life during the pandemic at UCF. So we really encourage all the students to participate in this web course and look at it and take this course as well. And that should be up hopefully by the beginning of August.
Thank you all so much. The next question is, will the pool be open?
Yes, the lap pool will be open. The leisure pool will not be open. The lap pool will be open for one person per lane. We will take reservations for the lane and we'll have people go in every other lane, about 6 to 8 hours a day at this point.
Thank you. Our next question, are there still plans to have Pegasus Palooza somehow?
Absolutely. Pegasus Palooza will still happen. It will still kick off the first week of classes. The Office of Student Involvement and a lot of other partners across the university are working very diligently to put together a full slate of events. We will still have some of our same events that we've had always in the past. For instance, one example is we typically will do a movie night during Pegasus Palooza. This year we are changing it up a little bit and we are actually going to have it be a drive-in movie. So people will be able to still participate and have a fun environment. For those people who do not have cars, we will have an opportunity for a seating area for them to be able to participate in the process. We are still in the process of looking at a live comedy show. So there will be an in-person event that will have a comedy show that will happen. We'll be doing an in-person late nights event that week. But there are some events that we will be shifting kind of to a hybrid fashion based on the current situation we're in. So for instance, we won't be doing a indoor concert or an outdoor concert in person, but we are actually in the process of having a virtual concert that will be just for our UCF students. And so There is going to be a significant number of events that are happening during that week to be able to engage our students who are here on campus and those who are taking all their classes online.
Thank you so much. Will there be virtual meetings for student government, and will the student government's mentorship program have virtual meetings and interactions?
Absolutely. So we are looking at having virtual meetings, hopefully for the fall semester, and doing all of our Senate meetings, our cabinet meetings, and other large group meetings online. And we're looking at transitioning our events similar to what Shane discussed, how OSI would move their events this year. We're looking at doing similar things and converting our once known events just to be a little more COVID friendly. And Stephanie can definitely talk more about our Student Government Leadership Council program and what that will look like this year.
Yeah, definitely. So our Student Government Leadership Council will operate as it usually would in the fall, although, of course, there's still going to be, there will be Zoom elements, so the meetings will be held virtually. So our wonderful Academic Affairs Coordinator, Bob Gray, is in the process of, kind of tailoring that experience to first-year students. So please be on the lookout for any updates regarding the mentorship program. And of course, applications are currently open on our Night Connect.
Thank you, Stephanie and Sabrina. Next question. Will there be any temperature checks before entering classrooms or the library?
So Doug Moiser from UCF Student Health. The current plan is to not have temperature checks on non-healthcare related facilities as you enter. Part of the importance of daily health checks through the UCF app is to screen according to CDC guidelines. And with non-healthcare related facilities, the current recommendation is to not be doing temperature checks. All you have to do is take a walk outside for about 15 minutes and understand that that's not a particularly effective way to screen when you're coming in out of a walk across campus in Florida. And that is held out by the data from CDC. So we will not be doing temperature checks, but we will be requesting and requiring in many cases an appropriate screen through the UCF app that will currently is deployed for faculty and staff who are here on campus. And the plan, I'll defer to Dr. Frame, but I think the current plan is to have a student screening app as well prior to the start of fall semester.
That is in discussion and development at this time. That's correct.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, how can you join clubs or organizations as a freshman?
So there's going to be a number of ways that a new student to UCF has the ability to find out about what student organizations are on campus. And just so you all know, we have over 600 registered student organizations that are active on our campus. The easiest way for someone that is new to UCF that is looking to is to go to our Night Connect page. You can go to the OSI's website, which is osi.ucf.edu. There's a tab there that says Registered Student Organizations, which will provide you a link to our Night Connect page. From there, you can be able to log in, create a profile. It takes just a couple of seconds. You'll be able to search all of our student organizations, and there's actually a button that will allow for you to click join a student organization, or you have the ability to reach out to the primary contact for that student organization. So that is one way that you'll be able to join a student organization. The other, as I mentioned previously, we are looking at ways to do organizational fairs, which gives an opportunity for our students to interact with our student organization leaders. Those will be looked at in two different ways. They'll be looked at both virtual for those students who want to connect virtually, but we will be also looking at in-person opportunities for students to connect with student organizations.
Thank you, Shane. Next question. How will students be housed in case of a potential hurricane evacuation?
Thanks. Our institution has done a remarkable job during hurricane emergencies. When we enter the cone of probability, our emergency management folks really work hard to track the storm and understand as best we can its path and where Florida falls within that cone of uncertainty. Once UCF falls into that cone, a decision is generally made very early on to give students about closing the campus, to give students ample time to find options off campus or to return home or to another location prior to the storm's arrival in the state. And so we've worked really hard to give plenty of advance notice to the community to be able to leave the campus and return to home generally or some other location. For those who must stay, we do generally have a group of students that have no other place to be and therefore do ride out storms with us in our ride out locations that are hosted by housing. Those are for housing students only. And we do plan to offer ride out locations again this fall as storms require. We move students, some students will stay in their spaces. There are some buildings that do not move to ride out locations. Others do move to ride out locations and will be observing social distancing, mask wearing, and hand washing within those locations as well. So our COVID plans will extend to our ride out locations in terms of our plans for the fall.
Thank you so much. Our next question is there still going to be a parents' weekend in October?
At this time, all of our large events are being reviewed. And so we don't have final decisions on these things at this time, but we are working on if family weekend does not occur, how we might do something virtually that would engage families in our campus over the fall.
Thank you, Dr. Frame. So since people can lie on questions on the screening app, a concern is how do you know the student or faculty is not just lying so they can get into whatever building they need to get into and then spread COVID?
So certainly I suppose it is an option that students could choose or anyone could choose to not answer the questions accurately on a screening app. Again, our community is one based on care and concern for each other. And it is our hope that students and faculty and staff will answer truthfully and that they will follow the guidelines in the app that gives them access to Student Health Services, Doug Moiser's operation, to get the appropriate testing if they need it, and to understand what their responsibilities are moving forward. We need people to do the things that keep everybody safe, including themselves and others. And so we do hope that people will not lie on the screening tool and will instead tell the truth and help us to protect our community collectively. Sabrina?
Yes, and if I may chime in and add that student government has also been in these conversations as well. And again, we hope nobody wants to lie on these apps, but we've spoken with Faculty Senate and Student Health Services, and we're working on creating systems where students and faculty don't feel like they need to resort to lying and they feel comfortable admitting and saying, I'm just not going to show up to campus today, and students won't be penalized in classes for being sick. So those are things we're working on to make sure students feel comfortable to fill out that symptom checker daily and come to campus only when they're feeling healthy.
Thank you, Dr. Freeman. Thank you, Sabrina. Our next question is a two-part question. As Florida cases continue to rise, is UCF potentially moving more classes online? And what's the plan if the state shuts down due to more rampant cases?
So UCF has been a leader in remote education for some time. And we certainly, all of our plans are very nimble and able to respond as needed as the circumstances within our state, within our region, within our local community change, given the virus. I think probably everyone's heard at some point someone say we are all on the virus's timeline, not our own. So we are prepared to move more things to remote instruction if needed and if the circumstances deem that appropriate. Should we end up doing that, housing has indicated they will remain open until such time as that would not be an option. And Dr. Moiser, you may want to talk about what that would look like. But housing would remain open and we would continue to provide services, as you've heard my colleagues speak to already, in virtual circumstances at that time.
So I have to answer this a little bit more generally, which is if Florida cases continue to rise and we have to move backwards in terms of the phased reopening, the critical issue is physical distancing, and we would need to take whatever actions are necessary to safely distance people. And if that happens to be with classrooms that are not going to be able to be used, then that will be suggested by the medical director, Dr. Daigen. The shutting down of the state obviously is not something that I'm going to have a whole lot to say about, but all of that has to do with increasing physical distancing, with the continued use of then masks and hand washing as supplemental issues once people are more closer to each other. So best that I can say is we're operating on the 3 pillars, which is hygiene, masks, and physical distancing right now. And if we need to shut down because of widespread community transmission that is very high, then we'll do that. Right now, the state is starting to do that, and we're going to see what happens with the curves the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, guys. Next question. How will career services work in the fall?
Well, Career Services has been very proud to be open and fully functioning with all services since this crisis began, and we will continue to offer all services remotely into the fall term. But in addition to that, we will have some in-person services as the health guidelines allow. We will be having our career fair virtually this fall, September 29th and 30th. Our workshops will be available remotely, employer information sessions, interviewing with employers, career counseling. Our whole host of services will continue to be available.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, how will the student union be open in the fall?
Good afternoon, everyone. I think the easiest way to answer this is kind of the way Dr. framed the entire conversation today. So campus will look different when we reopen in the fall. And particularly, so the student union will be reopening on August 8th as students start to move back into housing. So we're excited to be able to reopen our doors at the end of next week. The union will look a little bit different in good ways and in COVID ways. So we've got a major expansion that campus has been very patient with us with, and we're really excited to have that opening over the next couple weeks. And so we'll have additional seating available. Of course, we'll have that seating socially distanced and separated as well. So I think all of our services will be available. So there won't be anything that that won't be available in the student union, but we will have less seating available because of social distancing measures, and but Bike and Gold will still be open, so we'll be available for of course encourage people to participate in outdoor activities, so open for bike checkout and bike rentals, and we'll have free printing available on study locations, and the student union will be operating mostly as normal, as we can.
Awesome. Next question. Will we be able to leave campus to visit home?
So the answer to that question is yes. People can certainly go where they want to, as they want to during the semester. And so to return home is certainly an option if people wish to do that. I think what's really important is the continued practice, whether we're on or off campus, of the systems we know are helpful in decreasing the spread of this virus: washing hands, social distancing, and wearing our masks. And so regardless of where you do that, whether that's at home, on the way home, or returning to campus, that's going to be critical. And to be thinking about who are you going to see, what have they been doing to protect their bubble, to protect their group. I've been talking to students and saying my new favorite word is quarantine. Who is on your quarantine and how are you protecting that bubble? And I think it's important for students to consider and think about that as they re-enter the campus environment, where students are going to live, who they're going to live with. How are you going to protect that group of people you're coming in home to every day, whether that's in your residence hall, whether that's an apartment or housing off campus? What are the practices you're going to observe together, regardless of where you are? Whether you're in Miami meeting with family, or you're here in Orlando at a restaurant or elsewhere, or here on campus. What are the practices that you commit to as a group in your quarantine to make sure that that team stays safe and healthy? And so those are all considerations and thoughts that people need to make when they venture out of that group. how are we going to protect each other, and what are going to be our collective commitments to one another to help maintain our safety and health and well-being together.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frame. Our next question is for Dr. Muser. Since all students are being tested for COVID when we move back to the dorms, if students go back home for a hurricane evacuation, will everyone be retested upon returning?
Well, I will simply expand on what Dr. Frame just said, which is it's pretty clear that if we evacuate the campus and break the bubble will have to be reconstituted somehow. However, always a doctor saying whatever, which is if the widespread community transmission is still a problem, we'll need to consider when and how we bring people back onto campus. And so the usual talk in terms of me trying to dodge the question would be it's dynamic, but in fact, I want to address it directly, which is that will be a dynamic question that will require where we are in terms of transmission and whether it's appropriate to bring students back to campus at all, depending on where we are with the pandemic after the hurricane. Would it be an option to test everyone returning, everybody who's living on campus? And the unequivocal answer is yes, maybe. And it really depends on when that hurricane occurs and what the community transmission rate is at the time that we evacuate the campus and basically break the fuzzy bubble that we're going to create when we bring people back in August. I wish I had a more straightforward answer, but the short answer is it depends. And it depends on those things I just mentioned.
Thank you, Doctor. Our next question, will sorority and fraternity recruitment happen this year?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this question. And yes, fraternity and sorority recruitment will occur. We have 4 major councils in fraternity and sorority life, and more or less they all are sort of designing their approach to recruitment this year. Panhellenic has identified the timing for their virtual recruitment, which will be all virtual. Monday, August 17th through Saturday, August 21st. There is a parent forum also on Friday, August 14th from 7 to 9 p.m. IFC is working on a hybrid model those are the NIC chapters. The National Interfraternity Council chapters, they are going to do a lot virtually, and hopefully we're working through some ideas for how to also have some in-person time which we're cautiously optimistic will happen. The Diversified Greek Council is going to move to an all virtual recruitment this year or this fall. And the National Panhellenic Council, the historically Black Greek letter organizations, are still working through their plans, but more than likely will be also some sort of combination, if not all virtual, then some virtual and some in person.
Thank you so much, Dr. Welch. The next question reads, I participated in the Brother to Brother program last year. Can I this year? How can I do so?
Sure, I'll take that one. Brother to Brother is one of the programs that we offer at the University of Central Florida through the Mass Department. And yes, we will be having Brother to Brother programming. As a matter of fact, we're having Brother to Brother programming during the summer. So that will be available. We will more than likely be virtual, but there could be some face-to-face. And the person you'll want to contact will be Mr. Jeremy Jones. You can email him at jeremy.jones@ucf.edu, and he can make sure that you get all the information. The Mass calendar will be coming out with all our events for the fall will be coming out very soon. So yes, Brother to Brother, as well as all the Mass programming, will be taking effect and will be happening during the fall semester. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Our next question is, do you really believe it is reasonable to open with this amount of cases daily?
UCF's plans for opening have been based upon the best guidance from CDC, local authorities, our own health and our own student health operation, as well as our medical school personnel. We have followed every guideline. We have made plans. We have made scenario after scenario to try and take into account all of the guidance that we've been provided and to implement it into our campus community as clearly and consistently as we possibly can. We also know that our community is responsible for each other, and continuing to stress the mask wearing, the facial coverings, our washing of hands, regular hygiene, and social distancing is going to be critical for all of us to be able to maintain our community moving forward. I think there are other pieces as well that go to our overall surveillance, tracking, and tracing process as well that Dr. Moiser may want to speak to as another part of our strategy in moving forward at this time.
So the short answer is that yes, I believe it is reasonable to bring people back onto campus. Ever since the beginning of this, there have been plans being developed and placed in terms of keeping students safe within the classroom and within the communities. And we know that inevitably there are going to be cases that are going to occur once different groups gather back together and we develop our own fuzzy bubble here. The importance of that is to test the groups that we need to test so that they can stay safe. And so that's why the decision was made to test all students who were returning to campus-sponsored housing. Student Health Services has been preparing for an extensive contact tracing program. Once that occurs, we've had some this summer to allow us to develop that program. So I believe it is reasonable to bring people back to campus. We also know that there will be cases, and Student Health Services stands ready to do a rather extensive contact tracing effort to make sure that those people are identified and then isolated appropriately, and their contacts be allowed to quarantine appropriately and be tested. I think we're ready. If we get to very high numbers, then we're going to say the numbers are too high. But right now, I think we're ready to go.
Thank you so much. The next question is, how do I connect with my academic advisor? What if I'm downtown?
Thanks so much for asking that question. Academic advising is one of the very important engagement activities that we need for you to do during this fall semester. In most cases, our academic advising will be provided remote and an online, email, phone calls, as we've done this summer, but we are exploring opportunities for limited in-person advising. You would connect with your academic advisor by going to the UCF browser, typing in student success and advising, and clicking on resources. And all of the academic advising offices will be listed. It is based upon your major, how you connect with your academic advisor. So you would connect with the college that has your major. If you're an undeclared or undecided student, I would ask that you connect with the Knights Major Exploration and Transition Center. That center is there to help any student who has not decided on an academic major at this time. And so the staff is there waiting and ready to help you and assist you.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, will we still be allowing students to smoke lit cigarettes and tobacco products on campus? Given the data outlined by several health professionals and backed by research, this would increase the likelihood of transmission in several obvious ways.
UCF is a smoke-free campus and does have a smoke-free policy. So smoking should not be occurring anywhere on our campus of lit cigarette products. If people wish to report that, we will be happy to take that through the conduct process, through the conduct process reporting form, as we are smoke-free.
Thank you, Dr. Frame. Our next question is, Speaking of quarantine, will the university be providing guidance to students regarding specific practices that students sharing apartments or dorms can implement to limit risk within their own dorm rooms, apartments, or other closely shared spaces?
I think that this is something that's going to be heavily covered in the web course. We're going to talk about student responsibility and how to have courageous conversations. You know, when you're living with others and you see your roommate maybe not following the same thing that you would want to be following and keeping each other safe. And I think the word team, you know, we've talked about it a little bit, and that aspect of community is really important during this time. So we're going to be going into individual responsibility, group responsibility, cleaning, and different things regarding dorms and off-campus housing. So that'll all be covered in the optional web course for students that we really highly encourage students to be taking and will be added to their web courses.
Thank you, Sabrina. A viewer would like to know, what are we going to do to avoid the parties and fraternities and sororities that will obviously going to be the sources of contagion?
Yes, we certainly are going to take measures to try to reduce risk for all students. And just as Sabrina was just saying, one strategy is to compel students to think about their safety and the safety of others. But we have also some other strategies in mind. One certainly is that all events will have to be registered through a process the university has crafted. And we're not going to be approving any kind of event that doesn't meet all of the safety standards that the university and generally the CDC and health officials and medical professionals have identified as being good for our health and well-being. So those options won't be available as approved events. And then the last strategy I would say is that we're going to be paying attention, and we're going to be observing what's happening in the facilities on our campus and near our campus that are occupied by fraternities and sororities, and we're going to be expecting them to follow the rules.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, what is my responsibility if I or my roommate test positive?
So I'll speak to that. The responsibility is, I think, first to get information. If you're at all concerned, please contact Student Health Services, because we have an extensive telehealth service, and we can make an appointment for you same day most times, or whatever is convenient for you, so that we can discuss the nature of your possible exposure, or if you test positive. We want to make sure that we're aware of that so that we can begin contact tracing. So the short answer is, your responsibility, in my mind, is to contact Student Health Services so that we can help you get the best care that you need. That will probably include testing if you have had more than 15 minutes of close contact with the positive person, or if you're positive, we will give you specific instructions on how to make sure that you safely isolate so that other people do not get your infection. And so I would just very quickly say, while some things may change from the CDC, I think almost certainly you're going to have to expect that if you test positive, that you will not be able to do routine social activities outside of your room for 10 days. There are a bunch of other specifics, and Student Health Services can give you the specific recommendations. Dr. Frame may be able to talk about wraparound services or other things that are available if you test positive, or if you're a close contact and we tell you you need to quarantine for 14 days, which is a little bit weird, right? You have 10 days if you're sick, but it's 14 days if you're not sick. That doesn't sound right, Dr. Moiser. And the answer is, yeah, that's the way it is right now. But those things are going to require us to help support those students who are conscientiously trying to avoid further spread of this virus. So contact Student Health Services. We can give you the most up-to-date advice in terms of medical. Dr. Frame, any comments?
I think that Dr. Moiser is, of course, spot on, given that this is his specialty. But I also would share that our student care services is available to help with wraparound services that students may require. If a student is in housing, notifying housing of their concern that they may have had exposure is also important. We have a series of isolation spaces available for students who are unable to go home if they test positive. Our primary goal will be for students to return home if they test positive. And if that's not an option, there are a number of isolation spaces that we can help students get to go through that period of quarantine isolation. And we're here to support them in terms of food and other circumstances to help them make it through that time. I think what we're also finding, and Dr. Moiser, please chime in if I don't share this correctly, but some students, when they are exposed to COVID or even test positive for COVID, are not profoundly ill necessarily. They may have relatively mild symptoms, but are still potentially able to spread the virus to others. And so if you test positive, or if you know somebody that's tested positive, to really make sure that that person is remaining in their isolation location and in their quarantine space, even if they're not feeling that ill, so that we can protect the safety and health and well-being of others in the community as well.
I'll simply say Dr. Frame is right. That's what you need to do. If you test positive, you need to isolate yourself. If you have any questions about that, contact Student Health Services. We'll give you the correct advice there. If you think you may have been exposed to someone who has tested positive, we would recommend that you quarantine, contact Student Health Services, and we will put you into either a telehealth visit or do contact tracing so that we can make sure that you're comfortable with the timing of your quarantine, but do not feel like you've been cut off from the world because of the quarantine.
Thank you, Dr. Frame and Dr. Moiser. Our next question is, how will social events such as philanthropy and or community events be handled?
Well, that is a good question, and I probably don't have a complete answer on that. We're still doing a lot of planning. What we have identified is that we believe we are better able to manage events that have less than 50 people. So and I guess I'm looking mostly at the philanthropy event part of that question. So my thinking is that students, being as bright and creative as they are, they may be able to generate some ways to continue to do these very important philanthropy events that raise money for good causes, while also accommodating the guidelines the university has established. I don't know exactly what those will be, but from what historically we've seen, students are very entrepreneurial when it comes to working out ideas. So I look forward to that. The service events are for a little bit different challenge, and that's because they frequently involve other agencies, external partners to the university and to the Greek community. And I suspect we'll just need to work with through those one case at a time. And obviously we want to do service. It's a big part of Greek life and a valuable part of our Greek experience, but we also have a new situation to deal with here. So we're going to have to be creative in how we figure it out.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, will the bike repair shop in the student union be open?
Yes, actually, the Bike and Gold shop will be open. As I mentioned, the student union will be reopening on the 8th. We're working with our staff now to get them scheduled to come back in, and as soon as we have them back on campus and ready to reopen the shop, we will. I would anticipate that would open probably the week before classes begin.
Thank you for that. Our next question is, how will we tailgate?
I can take that one as well. So the student union oversees the Nights on the Mall program on Memory Mall. And so most students that are tailgating, or a lot of students that are tailgating on the mall. So we've started some preliminary discussions on this, but of course, in order for tailgating to happen, we would need a football season to happen, and in order for, and we would need fans in the stands. And so those are two really big hanging questions right now that that UCF does not have really any power over. And so we'll be waiting to see how the conference handles those decisions and what happens with that. And so if we have a football season, if we have fans in the stands, which are two very big ifs right now, but if we do have those two things happen, then we will have discussions about tailgate and what we can make work in the current environment.
Thank you so much. Our next question is addressed to SGA. What are you hearing from students about their concerns about the fall?
So we conducted a student survey. The Student Body Advocacy Committee conducted that survey about a month or 2 months ago, and we had overwhelming responses from students saying they would do anything to be back on campus. Of course, as Dr. Frey mentioned in the beginning, there's a lot of different opinions here, and we're trying to do everything that we can to please as many students as possible. So there are students with concerns, and I think the most concerns that students have expressed is returning back to in-person classes and having flexibility with professors. So as I discussed earlier, that's something Stephanie and I have been working really hard with Faculty Senate on, and advocating for students that we have that flexibility. So if you did get tested positive, or if you were feeling symptoms, you shouldn't feel like you have to go to class that day and want to spread that to others. So that's something student government has been working really hard to advocate for students, to make sure that you feel comfortable returning to campus and you know that students aren't showing symptoms.
Yeah, and definitely, like Sabrina said, we got an overwhelming amount of concerns, but please, if you still have concerns, please send us through our way, and we're more than happy to address them.
Thank you, guys. Our next question is, will we have access to the Student Government Ticket Center?
I can take that one. So yes, the Ticket Center will be reopening when classes begin on the 24th. Right now, we're not 100% sure about what tickets will be available. We're working with the different agencies. I'm sure everyone knows that the attractions have a lot of limitations on who's coming in and when they're coming in, and reservations being needed and all that. And so we are working. We don't know what tickets will be available and how it's all going to work, but the Ticket Center will be open as classes resume.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, will all-night study be open?
I can take that one too. Yes, the all-night study facilities are student union facilities, and we will have them open. The only trick is they won't be actually open all night. So we won't change the name since it's a temporary solution, but we will be closing overnight from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m., I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, to sanitize the facilities. And so they will be open late nights and then reopen early in the morning, but we do need some time to get them cleaned overnight.
Thank you. Our next question is, will there be opportunities to get free merch and food virtually, like a virtual Market Wednesday?
That's a really good question. I love that idea. So we won't be doing Market Wednesdays this fall, just based on, as we talked about, the fuzzy bubble. So we don't want public entities coming onto campus and coming into the bubble. But we haven't talked about doing something virtual for that. I love that idea, to be perfectly honest. And honestly, we just haven't gotten that far down the path, as we've been planning to reopen and planning to see what kind of events we can put on in the student union. So for now, I will say duly noted, and we will look into possibilities for that. Thank you for the idea.
And actually, Rick, I'll add to that. Through Wellness and Health Promotion Services, or WIPS, one of their programs is nutrition, and we are doing many of the cooking lessons online now, and we're going to have prepackaged food available for students to pick up at WIPS to be able to take back to their homes and be able to cook and prepare the meals themselves.
Thank you both so much. Our next question is it better to be quarantined with your roommates or with your family?
Quarantine is never fun. So I'll say that it's better to be quarantined with a supportive environment and Quarantine is hard because even though there may be commons areas in most of the living facilities, we're not going to encourage anyone who's in quarantine to be in those commons areas. You need to figure out where you're going to feel safe and where you can get support for the things that are going to get you through quarantine, which is a long time. And that includes broadband, because you're almost certainly going to be working online in terms of doing classes, nutrition, and some sort of supportive environment. And you need to figure out where that's going to be. That may be in your dorm or in a private facility. Should you choose to go home for quarantine and have a supportive environment, that's perfectly okay. But quarantine's a hard one because you may not feel bad, but you need to physically distance, get appropriate nutrition, try to continue your education if you can. It's a hard one. I feel for the people who have been through quarantine. I'm not sure where that is other than to say, wherever you think you're going to get the most support, I think would be a great place for you to be. Dr. Frame, again, has talked about wraparound services. So we need to make sure you understand that we're here to try to provide you with a supportive environment here, but you may choose to quarantine yourself, go home, and then quarantine yourself at home too.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, will Knight's Pantry be open and how will that work?
Sure. Yeah. Knight's Pantry is open. I'm very proud of the fact that our team has been working hard this entire summer to keep Knight's Pantry open throughout, really, and it was open as emergency services even when the state was in lockdown. So I'm really proud of the team over there to continue. So for the summer, we've been doing curbside pickup. So we have an online form that you can fill out and do curbside pickup of food items. And we're doing 1 bag a week for students. And we've been doing quite a few of those throughout summer. In the fall, we will be expanding services a little bit. So we'll continue the curbside pickup, and then we will be doing some shopping by appointment so that students can come in and do things other than food. The suits program that we offer and the clothing programs and the toiletries are a little better to do face-to-face. So we'll be doing shopping by appointment beginning with the fall semester.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, what will homecoming look like? And specifically, what will Spirit Splash look like?
Well, I knew this question was probably going to get asked, and I'm not sure that I have a great answer for you all. I do know that we have a significant number of student leaders that are working very diligently and very hard to make sure that this year's homecoming is just as amazing as it has been any other year. But as you can about imagine, we have a lot of different factors at play, and most of our homecoming events are fairly significant in size. And so we are looking at what is plan A, B, and C in regards to homecoming. You know, there may be a possibility, depending on where we're at, that we may be doing smaller scale or some events that are a little different in the fall, but we may have to postpone some of those major events to the spring when the situation allows for us to be able to do those. But I do know that Spirit Splash is an event that is near and dear to everyone, to all of our students, to our campus community. I actually, when I started working here, I started 3 days before Spirit Splash. So it was one of the first events that I ever attended. And so we will be looking at making sure that we can do that event as soon as we can, as safely do that event. But you know what, there's all sorts of ideas. I even pitched the idea that maybe we get a bunch of those plastic kiddie pools and line the memory mall with them so we can social distance and have our own little pools to do Spirit Splash. So I know that doesn't give you the answer, but homecoming is critical to our campus community and to our engagement and our pride in our institution. And so there most certainly will be homecoming activities that will take place, but those and what they look like may be a little different this year.
Thank you, Shane. Our next question is, if I'm a student that is struggling financially, is there any support for me? For example, if I don't have broadband access.
Chris, thank you for that question. Our student care services operation continues to function, and I encourage folks that are in need of if they have financial need, if they have concerns that they don't have what they need to learn, If you would please reach out to Student Care Services so we can better understand those needs and then connect you with resources and opportunities. The Student of Concern form is available off the Student Care Services website, or you can call them directly as well during business hours. We encourage you to reach out to them as they're ready and prepared to assist.
Thank you, Dr. Frame. Our next question is, can you talk about diversity and inclusion programming this fall?
Sure, I can take that. We will continue to have diversity and inclusion programming through SJA, through MSC, through MASS, and all of us are planning different events that will include all different types of nationalities and ethnicities, because we know how important diversity and inclusion is. It's important during this time, and it was important in previous years. And so we will definitely be having that, and you will be getting information on all of those events coming up before the semester begins. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Our next question is, are there career fairs planned for internships?
Yes, absolutely. Career Services Big Fall Career Expo will be held over 2 days instead of one. It'll be a virtual event, but that will be available on September 29th and 30th. The internship fair will be the week before that. And then the other fairs that take place within the colleges, the Rosen Career Fair or the Business Invitational, plans are being made to offer those events virtually as well. So keep looking at Handshake to see which events are available on what days and instructions for other activities too. But all of that will be available this fall.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, what on-campus jobs are there for students?
I could probably take some of that at the rec center. As you know, we hire a large number of student employees, and with us not being open over the summer, there's a good number of employees that have not carried forward with us. So as we come into the beginning of the fall semester, maybe even earlier, we'll be looking to add members to our team and kind of rebuild our awesome Rec and Wellness Center team.
I'll add that although we know that employment is down in some areas, employers still are hiring students for positions while they're in school and for jobs after. Make sure you continue to check Handshake. You'll be able to find positions that are available on campus and off campus. And be sure to check with financial aid about any federal work study positions that might be available.
Thank you so much. One of our viewers is really appreciative of what you guys are doing for students and is also curious about the wellness and health promotion and what services WIPS will offer this fall, and if these will be in person or virtual.
I got that as well. WIPS has really put together a robust offering for the fall. There will be both in-person and virtual events. Some of the in-person ones will continue to distribute free condoms that will be pre-packaged. We'll continue to have HIV testing. We'll continue to have biofeedback in person, and we'll have gardening on campus. Some of the things that we'll be doing virtually, we'll continue our wellness coaching. I'm really focusing on SNAP benefits as well as the couponing classes we have, virtual garden tours, meditation, and yoga nidra will both be done live, and alcohol and other drug screening will take place. In addition to our peer mentor group, we'll have presentations to really help students minimize some of their academic impediments.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, will downtown food trucks still continue?
Good afternoon. Thank you for that question. We're in the process of reviewing the food options for students downtown. We are advocating to provide some great options for students. So we're working with the developers of Union West to see what those options might be for the first floor for food services. So that's in discussion, as well as our surrounding community. And we also will continue to educate our students on all the great food options they have within walking distance.
Thank you so much. And this will be our final question for this evening. For in-person events, will there be a virtual option?
I'll go ahead and field the last question of the day. The answer is we are encouraging all events that we have to be in a hybrid format if they are going to have any face-to-face options. So yes, we are going to encourage our event planners to make it available to be online because we know that there are students who might not necessarily want to come to an in-person event. There may be students who aren't even living in the Orlando area that have the ability to come to those events. One of the great things that we have found out is through the pandemic is that our students have enjoyed having some virtual events. And so that is something that we are going to continue to make sure to offer. Any event that is planned by OSI where it is reasonably able to be done both in person and virtual, we will make sure to offer that up. But I also know that there are resources around campus for student organizations that are planning events or trying to do things to be able to help with those virtual offerings. I guess, Rick, if you wanted to answer that, but I know that Rick's team has been working very hard to create a virtual studio, which will even give resources to student organizations to do so.
Sure. Yeah. So just as Shane said, we're really encouraging we shouldn't have any events that are exclusively face-to-face. So there should always be a virtual option of some kind. And so the team has been working hard in the student union and across campus really to make those options available. And so one of the options we have in the student union is a virtual studio, and that's basically a live stream studio that's set up with professional equipment. And I think that will make for really nice virtual events. And so that'll be one of our marquee facilities, I think, looking into the fall semester.
Thank you both so much. This concludes our time for questions. Regrettably, we did not get to every question, but we will capture these questions and make sure we make every effort to answer these in follow-up communications. Are there any final comments?
Thanks so much for everyone's participation today. I deeply appreciate it. And hopefully we've given you some overview of the kinds of things that we have planned for student engagement and a robust student experience in our return for the fall. A couple of things I just wanted to make sure that we shared is that we've talked a lot about the fact that many of our opportunities will be both in person and virtual. A lot of those opportunities will also be recorded. And so if somebody is unable to attend when the actual event happens, those recordings may be things that you wish to go back to and are available through Facebook postings and other social media outlets for you to consult with later. Facial coverings, every student is being provided with a facial covering. In fact, it looks a little bit like this one that I have here in my office. It will be able to be picked up when you return to campus. There are a couple of different locations, including all night study and others, that are available for students to pick up that facial covering. If students forget their facial covering, there are also several vending machines around campus that will have facial coverings for purchase if for some reason someone comes to campus and fails to bring them with them. Our plans continue to be fluid, continue to be flexible, continue to respond to the changing circumstances of this pandemic. We encourage everybody to wear their facial covering, to practice appropriate social distance, and wash those hands frequently using hand sanitizer when needed. And we look forward to continuing into the fall.
And I just wanted to say thank you to all the students and parents that were on today and asking questions. And I wanted to thank the panelists for your constant commitment to creating the best college experience for our students. We're working so hard to create the most normal college experience that we can. So students, please try to stay involved, whether you're doing things remotely or coming to campus. Let's have a safe and incredible semester. And with this web course that's going to be coming out in August, I encourage all students to look through it. We tried to keep it clear and concise so it wasn't too overwhelming with information, but it also hits everything you need to know regarding policies and procedures when coming back to campus. And as always, if you ever have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out to student government directly. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Well, once again, we'd like to thank our panelists today and thank the audience for your questions. You can find more info on returning to campus at ucf.edu/coronavirus. At the end of this forum, you will see information on the various ways students will be able to engage and access student life, student support, and student success services and programs. You can also find a recording of this event on UCF's YouTube page.
This concludes UCF's Fall 2020 Student Engagement Forum. Thank you all for attending and have a great day.